Hi, welcome back. It's been several weeks since I've done a video, so apologies for that. Been very busy with weddings, so today I'm actually going to do two videos. First one, this one, is about the Nikon D780 and the Z5 low light photography capabilities. And the reason I'm doing this is not last weekend, the weekend before, I did an evening birthday party for Max, who owns a boutique bed and breakfast business. It was his 60th plus one birthday, delayed from last year for obvious reasons. And it started at 7 o'clock in the evening and went on till midnight. I was there to capture all the stuff that happened. And of course, by 9 o'clock, we are completely dark. We have a few lights around the place, but many of the shots were focusing on people who were literally in the shadows and almost completely dark, to the point that I basically couldn't actually, through the on the D780, I really couldn't actually see what I was focusing in on. I just kind of guessed that the focus point was somewhere about here. Try and line it up roughly, hit the focus button and hope it was in focus. So we'll have a look at those photos. I'll talk about how that went, what lenses I used, what the results were, how I dealt with them in Lightroom and that kind of thing. That's what this video is about. Also, I'm going to record straight after this. So do subscribe and hit the notification bell, because then you'll get to see the other video and all the other videos I've done about how I've recently bought a new lens for my Z5, which is one of the most transformative lenses I've ever used. It's changed the way I do wedding photography. It's enabling me to get photos which I never thought I could get. Basically, it's giving me photos that look like they're taken with a Leica. And if you don't know what the Leica look is, just type into Google Leica look and you will see 1,000 photographs that have the Leica look. Basically, the Leica look is, well, my interpretation of it is dark shadows, lots of contrast, but subtle colours, focus really a really dark, a really shallow depth of field, so that the subject really stands out from the background or the foreground, and it's just got a lovely sort of, I don't know, an artistic look to it. And this little guy is now giving me those photos. So that's the second video. Back to this video, low light photography. I've had many questions and emails and messages over the last few months since I started posting videos about the D780, mainly about focusing in low light and its low light abilities. And I can tell you from having done that 5-hour shoot, 3 of which were in total darkness, it is brilliant. The Z5 is also brilliant, and I actually had no problems whatsoever focusing at any time throughout the entire day, evening rather. Let's just jump over quickly and take a look at some of the photos, then you'll get an idea of what I'm talking about. So here we are looking at Piglet's boutique. Let me just go back to the gallery. Here's some of the shots. Here's the gallery, and let's just jump in to some of the evening. Well, actually no. Let's look first of all at this one. So this is just what's that called? A threesome. Anyway, this lovely little group here doing some Italian sort of laid back jazz for the meal. That was brilliant, and obviously that was in daylight. That was about 7:30, something like that. Then we got on to, and this by the way, I mentioned earlier on in this video about the Leica look. This is a shot I took with that lens on the Z5, and we'll be coming on to that in the next video. Meanwhile, let's get on to some of the nighttime shots. So as you can see here, it's obviously getting dark. We've got some lights in the background that are now standing out enormously from the ambient light. No problems whatsoever at this point. It's twilight. Easy to focus on that. Then we get into pretty well darkness. You can see from the sky here, we are almost completely dark. But of course I'm actually focusing on something that's quite light, so no problem again with focusing in that kind of situation. It was actually a really great evening. We had Max? No, we didn't. We had Elvis for the most of the evening, from about 9 o'clock till midnight, doing his stuff. These sort of shots, again, not too difficult, because although we've got some bright backlight here, he did have some light on him from some footlights down here, so that again wasn't too difficult to get those shots. It was these sort of shots which then, if there was going to be a problem focusing, it's on these kind of shots. There's some light from the house here. Back behind me over this side is the stage with a few lights on, but no lights really pointing out towards the crowd here. And the light on Elvis was simply the light from the stage, which was pretty low. I've actually played around with this in Lightroom. I have brightened Elvis up. He was pretty well dark in that shot. And all of these shots from now on are 25,600 ISO. Most of them shot wide open on my 24-70 2.8 lens. Some of them, a few of them, with my Z5 with the 50mm 1.8 lens on, G lens. And well, hopefully these give you an idea. You know, it was dark. I doubt whether many people are going to get situations where they want to focus on anything that's much darker. Obviously these weren't dark, much darker than this kind of shot here. So that's an idea of the kind of shots that I was challenged with getting. So what did I do? How did I get those shots? First of all, let's talk about the D780. I've mentioned in one of my previous videos, and I've been asked about the low light AF. If you go into the menu and look at, just try and get the thing up, look at the custom settings menu, look at autofocus. You've got low light AF. On here it's A11. I did turn that on. I'll be completely honest, I didn't notice any difference. It didn't seem to slow the focusing down. It didn't seem to make it any more accurate. And when I got back to Lightroom and looked at the photos more closely, I couldn't see any difference on the shots where I had low light on and low light AF off. So it's back off, and I don't think I'll be bothering to turn it back on again. You might have different experience, but for that particular shoot, I didn't find any help at all in focusing. The way the setup I use for focusing is continuous focus, obviously, back button focus, obviously, and I use D9 for most of the shots. I did have dynamic, the 3D tracking, 3D viewfinder I'm talking now, because almost all the shots were 3D viewfinder. I found the 3D tracking, certainly as the evening got darker and darker and darker, I did find that more and more unpredictable. I would put it over someone, their face, hit the back button focus, and we're okay. And I could move a little bit and it would be okay, and I could move a little bit more and it would just jump to something else. So it wasn't, so I don't know whether it was actually refocusing on something else or whether it was just the box was moving, but the focus was actually staying the same. I didn't want to take the chance. I was taking a lot of the shots on the 24-70 at 24, so I got quite a wide shot, and therefore composition wise, providing I was in the roughly in the right ballpark, I could move the focus point a couple of times, just a little bit here or a little bit there, and I could get the composition I want using the D9. Could use single point probably, it probably wouldn't have made any difference. But I found that was fast, accurate from the photos I've got. I think I took about 600 shots during that evening and got back to Lightroom. And honestly, I would guess out of them, I selected about 180, 200 to actually edit and process. So I looked at those closely, and of those 200, there were probably, I don't know, probably only literally 2 or 3 which weren't sharp enough in focus for me to use. There were a few where I guess it was off by, you know, off by an inch. It focused on maybe their ear instead of their eye from maybe like 20 feet away. It really made very little difference at all. Speaking about the Z5 now, I didn't expect this to work as well as it did. I expected the results from the D780 to be a fair bit better than the Z5. If you look online, there's some people griping about how good this is in low light autofocus. I had no more issues with this than I did the D780. On the Z5, and I'm going to go more into the Z5 setup when I do my next video straight after this one, when I talk about the new lens that I've got, and in fact about Nikon lenses in general. And I seem to have gone dark in the picture again. I do apologise for that. I don't know what's happening. Right, I've got the user settings set up to 3 completely different focusing systems. The U1 is manual focusing, U2 is face and eye detect, and U3 is using the equivalent of D9 on the D780. And that is what, again, that is what I use for most of the time when the light dropped. With the joystick, it's easier to move that around on this than it is on the D780. So I could just get the composition I wanted. Most of the time I was using a 50mm lens on this, so I did need to think a bit more about the composition. Get the composition right, pop the focus point across, hit the back button focus, and it worked. And I found when I got into Lightroom again, looked at the photos, the ones that I'd selected to be edited, I really didn't find any out of focus. I did at some point, I would use the face detect, depending on the shot I was taking. If I wasn't too worried about who I focused on. So if I've got a group of people, 7 or 8 people, and they're all talking, and I just want to get in fairly close and just pop off a shot of someone in this group, focused on someone in this group. But I'm not actually too worried about who it is, it's just a group of guests. Face detect, eye autofocus works brilliantly, because what you tend to get is a group of people will be talking and they'll be looking. I'll have some people here facing into the group and some people over there facing into the group this way. So I've got a few faces over that side looking at me, but normally there's only 1 or 2 that the camera will pick up. The others are sort of really kind of side on, so it prefers to pick up a proper face, and it picks up those faces. And of course, guess what? That would be what I want to focus on anyway. I don't want to focus on someone who's looking down or got a pint mug to their face. I want it to pick the face that is not necessarily looking at me directly, but at least facing roughly in my direction. And that is, of course, what the camera picks up on. So for those sort of quick, in the moment, point it there, get a shot, face detect actually works really good. In other situations where I wanted to focus on the guy who on Max, whose birthday it was, if he was in a group, then I wanted to focus on him, and face detect doesn't always pick up the face you want. You can use the toggle at the back to move that across, of course, But if it doesn't actually register his face for some reason, then it won't even give you a chance to move it across. So face detect can become a bit of a pain if you want to be really specific, in which case I'll just go back to the single, not the single point, the D9 equivalent on the Z5, and use that. Or on face detect, the setting I've got for that, I've got a button set so that it will bring up the box. Let me just remind you what on earth I'm talking about. If I go to the right one, so if I've got it on face detect, I've got the button set up at the front which brings up the center tracking box. I can just put that over max if that's the case, but back button focus, get the composition, take the shot. That works brilliantly as well. So if you've got a problem with low light focusing and low light photography with one of these guys or anything similar, please let me know, because I can't understand why people have this problem. That shoot was the most challenging low light shoot I've ever done, and with two cameras which performed absolutely brilliantly. I'd be interested in your views and your thoughts. If you'd like me to do a more in-depth look at the settings and actually maybe go out and do a proper behind the scenes shoot as it happens, I will try and organise that. But I really just wanted to do this video just to give you confidence that either the 780 or the 750, or, well, certainly those two, the Z5 and therefore also the Z6 and Z7, in low light photography, no problems whatsoever in a real life situation. Hope that's been useful. I'm now going to do the other video where we're going to talk about the Z5 with this lens on and the Leica look. So go take a look at that. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.